Hey everyone, and welcome back to Underdog Investing. So today is a very special day, and that's because after months of anticipation, ARK Invest have finally released the ArkX Space Exploration ETF. And they've also told us which stocks will be in this ETF, which will be available to trade from tomorrow onwards. So the one that I'm going to talk about is Trimble. It's the number one stock in this portfolio, and it accounts for 8.47% of the whole portfolio, which is a significant weighting if you consider the fact that there are 39 stocks in this portfolio. So firstly, I want to talk about Trimble and what they do, and then I'm going to talk a bit about the financials, and then finally I'm going to talk about the stock price and what I'm planning to do with the stock. Before I jump into it, I'll be very grateful if you can smash that like button and subscribe to the channel for future updates. So firstly, what is Trimble? So Trimble is transforming the way the world works, and they're targeting three main areas. The first one is construction. They're building 3D models to help pinpoint construction accuracy during fabrication and construction. This helps reduce waste materials, and it also helps with progress monitoring, which enables schedule optimization. They're also targeting the second area, which is agriculture. So they're using real-time field conditions updates, which helps inform farmers of management plans and helping them execute on the field. And then finally, the third one is transportation. So this is where they use real-time road, vehicle and driver conditions, align them, manage them and optimize them to meet the customer's needs. So this might all sound a bit fancy, but Trimble aren't just here to talk about things and talk about theory. They've actually got real world applications and real customers to show you. So this takes us to the next slide. So in terms of construction, we've got over 29 million unique SketchUp activations per year. They also manage about 30 million models and components and over 10 million users of Trimble Connect. In terms of agriculture, we've got around 155 million acres using Trimble technology, around 345,000 Trimble displays in the field, and around 115,000 customers subscribing to Trimble correction for services for high precision GNSS. And then we've got around 98 million acres covered using Trimble Silver software. And in terms of transportation, you've also got real world applications. So Trimble technology is on 99% of the top 200 trucking fleets in USA, around 1 million assets managed directly with Trimble technology on board, and over 200 million assets managed with Trimble technology. So this is basically Trimble flexing on how they're not just a company which is providing promises. They've got real world applications and real customers who are using their technology. So this is something that is very good, because most people thought that the ArkX ETF would contain stocks which are only filled with promises. But as you can see, Trimble has plenty of customers to show that they really do work. So in terms of the financials, you can see that this is the Q4 2020 earnings report, and we can see we've got an annualized recurring revenue of around $1.3 billion, which is a 9% growth year over year. We've got approximately $1.3 billion in backlog, and that just demonstrates that we've got plenty of customers willing to pay for Trimble's technology, and we're nowhere near running out of money if we've got a backlog of $1.3 billion. We've also got $1.83 billion in terms of trailing 12 months software services and recurring revenue, and we've got a trailing 12 months research and development of 15.1% of the revenue. So 15.1% of the revenue is going into R&D, and not only is that the case, we've also got more than 65% of that 15% is going into research and development in the software sector. So Trimble really know where the world is going. It's going into software. So that's what they're targeting mainly. And this slide just demonstrates the growth of Trimble. So if you can see, in 1999, we had a revenue of $271 million. Just 10 years later, in 2010, we had a revenue of $1.3 billion. And then 10 years after that, you can see in 2020, which is recently, we had a revenue of $3.15 billion. you can see that's a significant growth, and you can see the gross margin also grew from 52% in 2010 to 59% in 2020, and the operating margin also grew from 7.5% to 16.8%, and then finally 22.8% in 2020. And you can see that in terms of acquisitions, ventures, and initiatives, this is also increasing significantly over time. And finally, here at the bottom, you can see that the compound annual growth rate between 1999 and 2020 in terms of revenue was 12.4%. And if we look at the adjusted EBITDA compound annual growth rate, between the same period was 17%. And then this is just another slide to reiterate the earnings, and you can see that the annualized recurring revenue increased by 9% year over year, the hardware increased by 5% year over year, perpetual software increased by 3%, and we actually had a minus 28% in terms of professional services. And I think that was mainly due to the COVID pandemic, and once the lockdowns lift and things start getting better, I think this number would definitely improve. Okay, so just to summarize, you can see, Trimble at a glance. So integrated technology and software provider to the world's largest industries. We've got over 1,000 unique patents and over $475 million per year on research and development. We've got millions of customers and partners in over 100 countries, managing millions of sensors in the field, diverse go-to-market strategies, and over 11,000 employees in more than 35 countries. So like I said again, Trimble is a company which has real technologies which are being used by real customers. So they're not just any random space company which is being put into this ArkX ETF just for the fun of it. So we can see why it's the top holding in the ArkX ETF. And finally, looking at the stock price, I mean, we've got a market cap of $18.9 billion. We're at $75. We finished the trading day on Monday, the 29th of March at this level. If we have a look at the 6-month chart, you can see we've had solid growth. We've actually grown about 54% in the last 6 months. And if we have a look at the 1-year chart, you can see we actually grew about 140%. So we've had a very solid growth, and you can see that the tech sell-off hasn't really affected us that much. So this seems like a very strong stock, and I think it's a good one to add to my portfolio. So I'll probably add a small amount. At the moment, I'm living paycheck to paycheck, so I'm going to wait for my next paycheck, and I'm probably going to add some Trimble into my portfolio in terms of space plays. And the reason is because you can see that they are doing a lot of good in terms of construction, agriculture, transportation. These are all the right industries to go into in terms of the future. And they're also putting in the research and development into the right areas, so into software, which is again the future. So the final thing I wanted to finish off with actually is, if you remember this is a paragraph taken from the SEC filings that ARK Invest put up a few months ago when they filed for this ArkX ETF. And actually in this paragraph details the clues that in hindsight it looks so clear that they were going to add Trimble into their portfolio. So they actually wrote that one of the platforms that they wanted to go into was aerospace beneficiary companies, which are companies that stand to benefit from aerospace activities, including agriculture, internet access, GPS, construction, and imaging. And if we have a look at the sectors that Trimble are in, you can see geospatial, construction, agriculture, and transportation. So in hindsight, it probably was very obvious that Trimble was going to be added, but hindsight is 2020. And yeah, so I'm planning to buy some of this stock. So that is the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next one.